Hey, what's up everyone? Shane here with ROA Off-Road. Welcome to another Campfire Rant. Don't forget that these come out every single Thursday, and we have a special guest doing our next week's Campfire Rant. It's going to be more technical stuff to go through, so you can talk to him, and I'm not going to tell you who it is, but it's a surprise. That's going to be the live Campfire Rant. It's at 5 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. So if you're on the East Coast, you should be home from work and ready to rock and roll and ask your questions. And then go to our playlist. We have tons and tons of subjects, everything from why you shouldn't live in an RV or what to expect when living in an RV. I go over a lot of different things. Some things are truly a rant. Some are just more educational. I call them a rant, and they're not always rants. Sometimes we just go through the education. Today, I think, is actually more of a rant. And I think it's one of the most important things in business. And for me, when I'm going to go work with someone, whether it's a business relationship like a manufacturer, or if even a parts distributor, or if I'm just going to rent my car or go to a hotel, this item is, to me, is one of the most important things in any successful business. And if they have it and it's good, you'll know for sure. So are you ready for the secret ingredient to any business out in the marketplace? This is the secret ingredient to being very successful. There's a lot of pieces to the ingredient, but this to me is one of the most important, and you can know it almost instantly when you walk into a building, and that is culture. The culture of a company to me is so vitally important. And I don't believe that you can give good service to a customer in the marketplace if you don't have good culture. I believe everything starts with culture, because if the people are treated good within the organization, they then go out into the marketplace and they treat the customers good. And when you understand this, it kind of gives you a lot more patience with your experience with businesses, right? So when I go into a restaurant and I get bad service from a server or a waiter, I don't always get mad at the server, because I used to get bothered and be like, why don't they give me good service? And I would complain and be frustrated, like, why is it taking so long? Or they didn't smile. And I had this shift in when I realized that culture is king in any good business. Because if they weren't giving good service, who would notice? There has to be a team leader, right? On staff that oversees that server, right? And tells them, hey, you need to smile, you need to be kind, or whatever it is. Hey, you're a little slow at getting to your tables, you need to increase your efficiency, but do it with a smile. They would be getting coached or trained on how to get good service to the table. And if that server had a good manager or a good team leader, that they would be overseeing that and noticing whether people are happy or not because if you get big tips, people are happy, they're giving. So there's always a lot of key indicators of whether somebody's doing good or not. And it might not be the team leader. What if the manager or the GM of the store or of the or the restaurant or whoever it is, that person also goes down to the team leader, which then goes to the server. And what about the GM or the manager of the store? Typically there's an owner, right? And the owner is speaking to the GM, and the GM is speaking to the team leader, and the team leader is speaking to the server. And everybody always talks about from the top down. It's 100% true. If the owner is a jerk and rude to his GM, the GM will then be rude and a jerk to the team leader, and the team leader will be a jerk to the customer. And so I sometimes, when I go to any business and go to get service of any kind, if I'm not being treated well, sometimes it can be that person. Sometimes it can. But more often than not, the whole entire organization is messed up from the bottom to the top. And it's coming from the top down. It's really sad and unfortunate to see, but it's real. It's true. And I believe the most important thing is you first take care of your people. You take care of your people within the organization, and the people that you take care of in the organization will take care of the clients or the customers that are coming in to give you business. It makes so much sense, because if you're coming to work and you love what you do, and if you're treated well, if when you're having an off day, your leader comes to you and say, hey man, I notice you don't seem happy today, what's going on? And they talk you through, they coach you through things. Hey, maybe you need to take off early, and maybe there's an emergency with your family, you got to take off and go and see your wife, or whatever it is. There's always a reason for people to be upset. Sometimes people just have off days, and some people are naturally a little bit grumpy, right? But overall, if they have a good leader, that they're going to provide a good service to the end user. So here at ROA, we always say we never hire for skills or capabilities. We have 3 things that we look for in somebody when they're coming to work with us. It's humble, hungry, or smart, right? Because if they're humble, they're willing to learn, right? If they're willing to take, hey, I notice you doing that, that's probably not a good idea, let's improve that, right? If they're humble, they're willing to learn, and they're gonna grow, right? If they're hungry, they're also hungry to grow. They also have good work ethic. They're gonna work really hard, they're gonna do what's necessary, and they wanna advance in their life, they wanna progress, and that's really important. And if they're honest, well, you can trust them. If you can't trust somebody, that's a no-goer. I think Warren Buffett said, you hire somebody that's humble, that's intelligent and honest, you got a winning formula. If you miss the honest part, those people will take you for a ride and really mess up your business. So it really needs to be, the people have to have integrity, they have to have good work ethic, and they have to be willing to grow and learn and humble and listen and see where their blind spots are and improve those areas. So this Campfire rant today, the reason why this Campfire has come about is I recently just got back from the Palomino Paws factory tour. We were out there for half a week, and one of the very first days we went out there, we went to a morning meeting with them, and it was a leadership training meeting. And I thought, oh, okay, we're gonna go meet the whole leaders, all the big guys of the company and stuff. And we went into this meeting area, and it was everybody. It was everybody, but everybody from, I was sitting next to the cleaning people. And so it was everybody from the detailers, the cleaners, to the guys that were in the electrical department, the plumbing department, the marketing department, the engineers, the owners, right? It wasn't just only the leaders need to learn how to be better and improve, but it was everybody. And we went in there and it was so cool. And the guy that was giving the message, and this is his role at the company, to go around and give these messages, and he coaches and he takes people on and he coaches them and helps them improve their life or whatever. It was a really cool experience. And the thought he was talking about was, it's more important about who you are than what you know.
Who they were trumped what they knew. Who they were trumped what they could do. They weren't humble, hungry, honest, and hardworking. So because of that, there's what? There's separation. So in life, if you're going to be successful at anything, you got to understand that what you know and what you do may have got you here, but it's who you are that'll keep you there.
You know, and that's what I was saying just a little bit. The humble, hungry, and honest, right? That's how we hire people. It's more about who they are than what they know, right? Because if you're a hungry, humble, honest person, you're willing to admit, I don't know these skills, but I'm hungry enough to learn these skills. Or I'm honest enough to admit to myself that I don't know. I'm humble enough to take correction, and I'm hungry enough to learn and grow. It is so important to hire people for who they are, not what they know. Because we've had a lot of people that come in here and know a lot. They're unbelievably intelligent, great salespeople, but the honesty is lacking. And to me, that's the biggest problem. I don't want people in here that are misleading people or lying. Like that's just like, you know, it is so important. Who, not how. This to me is truly something that defines a truly great company from everyone else, right? Those companies that are subpar or even terrible, it's usually because they're lacking. The worse the culture is, the worse the company is. And you can almost sense it immediately. When you walk in a door, if the receptionist is smiling and friendly, you know that whoever's leading that lady is also smiling and friendly. It penetrates the entire organization. And it's not, we make mistakes. Here at ROA, we hire people that sometimes just don't fit with us culturally. Sometimes they're not they're not humble, they're not hungry, and if they're not honest, they're out really fast. So it's very important to just recognize when you're working with a company, any company, like, what is the culture of this organization? And I believe that's more important than anything else. I was reading something not too long ago, and it was some statistical data on suicides. And they say it's like the majority of suicide, over 50%, is Monday morning. And I believe that's so sad. And I believe that's because most people hate their job, because they're waking up and they're going into a work environment that's toxic, right? Where the culture is not good. And that's not okay. I think the world is becoming more aware of this stuff, and culture has become more and more important in the last couple decades. You hear about all these Apples and Googles and all these places that are like really cool into culture, and the younger generation is demanding more of these things just because they're seeing like their grandparents and their parents, and they're like, I don't want to do what they did, work in a toxic environment and just work for a paycheck to someday retire. Like, they want to be more fulfilled and part of something on a daily basis. And I see a trend going that way. And this isn't new. I read a book a few years ago called God and Guinness, right? This is Guinness, the beer company in Ireland. And they've been in business for hundreds of years, and they were doing unbelievable things for their people. Even when the entire world had never done, like, offered free medical, right? Like, to their employees, right? This was hundreds of years before any of this stuff existed. They had like really good OSHA regulations when there was no OSHA. They would, if you worked for a certain amount of time, they would buy the employee a house, right? Like, it was incredible. I was going through and I was like, this is so cool, and this company has lasted hundreds of years. I think they signed a lease for, it was either 500 or 1,000 years, the founder, because he was like, we're going to be here forever. But it's because he had the mindset that if you treat people the way you want to be treated, you're going to succeed in the end. And I think that's very true. But it can't just be treat the customers the way you want to be treated. It has to start with the people in the organization, and then it will bleed out into the people that are working with the organization. Not saying we're perfect. We make mistakes all the time and we're always growing, but that's where the humble part comes. We're humble and hungry to always be growing and improving what we're doing. But thank you so much for watching this Campfire Rant. I know that was totally different than what I normally do, because usually I'm talking about something to do with the RV industry. But to me, this has to do with the RV industry. It has to do with every single industry. And I brought this up because that was one of the things when I went to pause. When I walked through that organization, there was not a person in that organization that I didn't sense loved working at that organization. And that is really important, because I go to a lot of manufacturers and sometimes I can tell there's just this negative energy. There's like the soul is sucked out of some of the workers. And that's not a good thing, because that's gonna show in the craftsmanship and the product down the line to the dealers and everybody, right? The group of people that we visited, number one, they loved working for Maynard, who is the leader of the company. And some of them were even like, oh, I've worked with him for 10 to 15 years. One of the ladies was like, oh yeah, I started my career with Maynard. I ended up leaving and I went to another manufacturer for like a year. And then I came immediately back. Maynard called me and he's like, can you come back work for me? And she said, I'll be there in just a little bit. And she said she came back. And to me, that's very telling of a good culture, good organization, good leadership, because it's coming down all from the top all the way down, and the people love them. Every single person there that I talked to had worked with him for over a decade, and that's astonishing. And that bled through not just to his organization, but to the vendors that are helping them build the trailers. Every vendor was like, we love Maynard, and that's really cool.
So when Maynard calls, we usually try to do things that we don't with other people.
Okay, that's
just simply because he's got a relationship with him. And when he brought the Pause project out to him, I mean, that was a big boost for us. It's huge. It's a new cabinets, aluminum cabinets going into an RV, and that's different for, we build aluminum cabinets for garages, but not for RVs.
Anyways, stay tuned. Next week is the Campfire Rant, the live one. The next following week, I'm going to do a rant about the next Steve Jobs of the RV industry. You're going to want to stay tuned for that, because I think there's somebody in the RV industry, in the American RV industry, that is going to change the industry drastically. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.